Could you tell us about how you ended up interviewing Mwansa?
Yeah, I studied together with Mwansa. We went to a master's together at Bristol University a few years ago in international development. And I met her when we were doing a group work on, we had to pretend to start an NGO together. And we had loads of fun. We had loads of fun in the few weeks that we were working quite intensely together. And I found that she kept talking to me about her experiences of growing up and kind of comparing them to her experiences of living in England. So I thought, I really want to talk more about this, and this could other people should hear about this as well.
So did you have a clear idea about a narrative or a kind of message when you started the show?
Yeah, that's a tricky question because I felt like what I wanted to do was just, because I've spent many years of my life thinking about issues about global equalities and development, whatever that means, and I feel like I've read a lot of theory about it personally, and people who work in the development sector or whatever have read a lot of theory about it, or at least anyone in Britain can read a lot of theory about it. But what we can't do, I suppose, is have those experiences of actually being from somewhere else. And I think it's a completely different experience sitting here as a fairly middle-class, affluent, usually white person in Britain reading about this stuff. It's completely different from having grown up in a place that's completely different and that has experienced British colonialism in particular in the harsh and brutal ways that many African countries have. And I don't want to essentialise this experience either. I don't want to say that Mwansa, just because she grew up in Zambia or Zimbabwe or all these different places where she was living when she grew up, that she is, different from us, or that she has any particular, that growing up in these places gives you kind of some form of knowledge, innate knowledge or whatever. That's not what I'm saying at all. It was just the fact that Mwansa kept talking to me about it, and she seemed really keen to talk about it, and it was so interesting, all the stuff that she was telling me, and there are things that I hadn't experienced myself at all, and I don't think that many people here in Britain know or can even imagine these kind of things. So it just felt important to kind of bring that so people could listen to it. And I think that's what media is really good at, is like bringing people together who wouldn't otherwise be together, or who wouldn't otherwise hear about each other. And I'd much rather see shows that do that than to watch like Britain's Got Talent, or like CD soaps or whatever. It would be so cool. I could just like watch people talk about their lives. Like, that would be awesome. That's if there was a channel, like 10 channels for that, I would just do that. And the BBC actually have a project right now called the Listening Project, which is kind of people doing that. It's like people having conversations about things that mean a lot to themselves, and they record it and they put it. Some of it they broadcast, most of it they just put online. But yeah, so that's kind of where it came from. In terms of what it said, I found it a strange position to be in, to be editing this show, and I realised that some of the questions that I ask are really stupid and they could be perceived to be quite insulting, and because I ask really naive questions about this country. Like, so tell me what this country is like, and there's no answer to that question because the country is not like in any particular way, and so I felt quite like it was very problematic for me to edit it, because to not make it sound really simplified and to objectify Mwansa talking about her upbringing, and to not sort of create differences that aren't there or something like that. I guess what helped me in the process was the fact that I myself, being a Swedish person living in Britain, I get asked the same kind of questions all the time. People always ask me like, so are people in Sweden more friendly than England, or what's it like in Sweden? And I kind of have to choose whether to play along with that game and say, yeah, Sweden's like this, and I know because I'm a Swedish person. Or do I just kind of go, actually, I don't know, and you can't generalise about a country like that.
There are similar questions in the final episode of this series where you interview people in China.
Yeah, very much so. And China's even more ridiculous because there's even more people. There's like over 1 billion people. It's completely impossible to say that China is like this or China's like that. But hopefully the show kind of expresses that it's impossible to generalise like that. And I didn't mean for it to be a story of what it's like to grow up in Zambia. I really meant for it to be Mwansa telling her some of stories from her life or whatever, telling some thoughts from her life, which is, really awesome. And she's a particularly well-informed, experienced, intelligent person and fun to listen to. So that's why I chose to do a show with her.